Today we are talking about a marriage that is in purpose, is working in purpose. And I have my husband here, Mr. Joshua,
Hello there, everybody.
and I just invited him to come and talk to us, and we're just going to have a good time together for the next 10 minutes. And I'm going to be asking him a question, and he's going to be as authentic as he can be on our marriage and anything else that constitutes to a husband and a husband and a wife relationship, to include kids. So, tell us about what you understand about marriage and how our marriage fits into what you were talking about today.
I believe, and I think from my experience with you, sweetheart, is that uh, marriage is awesome. That's what I would say. It's so awesome, provided you have a counselor involved in it, and God is your counselor. And I wish I had known this before, before I got married to you, because I think we would have had, the greatest of our times. Even though I can never doubt it that we have had great times in our marriage. Um, I think ever since I married you, sweetheart, you and me have seen how much God has always taught us and how He is always teaching us, and not only teaching us but directing us. The time when I really thought, or the time when I was ignorant and I wanted to be the full control of what marriage is, oh boy, it was tough. I had so much areas of my life where I go like, what in the world was I even thinking of? And so, to answer your and to sum up the answer to the question you asked me is, I would say to anyone who wants to get married, if you are still single, marriage is awesome, but let God be your counselor in it. And the benefits of marriage are amazing. Some of those benefits are having wonderful kids that you got to see them grow, and kids that you got to see them do things. And of course, a lot of what they'll be doing are some of the things that you teach them, and some of the things that you share with them. For instance, do you know what always brings me to tears when I speak of our son is that he always says, should, if I will marry someone who is like mom, I'll be blessed. And that always makes me feel that, wow, that blessing is what I have. And it is my desire to see my son have someone like that.
Okay. So, you touched on marriage having a counselor involved in that marriage.
Yes.
So, and you mentioned that the counselor is God.
Yes.
So, God is the center of the marriage.
Yes.
How about outside counselors? And I know we did have an experience where we tried to initiate bringing in counselors from outside, and I realized at the end of it that the best help we could get for ourselves was we have to realize what the problem was. And finally for us it took just the two of us.
Yes.
So what would you say, what advice would you give to someone when they want to engage someone from outside, because it can it can work both ways, but what would you say, what would you advise?
Okay. Outside counselors, there are good outside counselors there. and there are also good counselors out there who have helped marriages recover. There are a lot of good counselors there. But there are times too God will send you to a counselor. The only time when going to an outside counselor becomes a problem is when God hasn't sent you to an outside counselor and you kind of choose for yourselves someone who you want to be your counselor. Because some, I believe some relationships have become victims of going to a counselor who made it worse than what they were seeking. Now, I think one of the things is it's so funny. Let me be honest with you. Every time me and my sweetheart here went to a counselor, we always came the moment when we sat before our pastor, and we had this pastor in Dallas, Lombeck. I think that was almost probably about probably about 18 years ago.
Right.
We could leave the house not talking to each other so well, and as soon as we enter into our pastor's office, because she's the one ministering to us, okay? So if me and my wife are agreeing to what the preacher is preaching, it's impossible for you to refuse his counsel. In other words, I'm trying to share about how, if you really want to understand whether you are capable of being given a counsel by your pastor. If your husband doesn't agree with the teachings or the scriptures that your pastor is preaching, then it's pointless for you to take him to your pastor. You may as well take him to maybe who? His brother or his sister, or maybe to Steve Harvey. I don't know. It's your choice. But let me tell you this. The worst thing you can ever do is when you are a couple to take each other to a counselor that you know one of you is not agreeing with. You want to take each other to a counselor that you know that counselor is right here between you. You love that counselor, she loves that counselor. You both love that counselor. So that when that counselor is directing you and helping you, you are both agreeing and you are both accepting the counsel. The problem comes when that counselor is one of you don't like the counselor. Then it feels like you are taking one of you, or let's say if it is myself who chose that counselor, or even my wife can still choose a counselor that doesn't favor her, or a counselor that she doesn't really fully believe in that counselor or love that counselor, but she is choosing it because you are in a desperate time. A lot of times when we go for counseling, there is a problem. And so when you get to that counselor, you don't have a relationship with that counselor. Problems start in the fact that you can have a counsel. As soon as you leave the office, the next thing you get is you are fighting over the counsel that you were given. The good thing about when you have God as your counselor, the only danger comes is when one of you doesn't have the same relationship with God. And sure enough, you want God to be your counselor. Yes, he will be. Because, well, what I can't do in my wife's life, God can. What my wife can't do or change in me, God can. He can also help your husband who is not a believer, or he can also help your wife who is not a believer, or he can help your husband who is stumbling, or your wife who is stumbling, because he is God. He doesn't just counsel to the ear. He counsels to the heart. He's the one who can transform us into a relationship. That makes sense. I remember me and my sweetheart, we would go to our pastor for counsel, and boy, as soon as he starts speaking, we there, we receiving, and I'm looking at my wife, and we are agreeing, we are even supporting each other in the thing, and I'm feeling like, wow, this fight is over, or this whatever was going on is over. When we get home, we are back to the same situation. Or I think a few times we get home and all things are well. One of the things I learned about us men don't like to keep coming to counsel. I don't know what it is about us men. I think it's about bringing a man to another man, which is I could say maybe to be humble. If ever you have your husband and he doesn't want to go for counseling, don't really divorce him because of that. This is a man thing. I'm being honest, because I am the first one always who would turn down a counsel. And my wife would go like, hey, sweetheart, don't forget, we're going for counseling at 2 o'clock today. And you know what? I would have these lined up excuses. And I mean, I'll go like, no, but you know, I have to do this and this. And my wife would go like, sweetheart, this is not about whatever you're doing. This is about our marriage. And so I'm the one who always had my sleeves full of excuses to go back and finish. I don't remember having any kind of counsel that we finished with my wife.
It's true.
We never had a counsel that completely got finished. And it was not her, it was me, because it's just the ego of a man and lack of humbleness. And I think I'm so thankful. My wife never divorced me because I refused counsel. But I remember, I can still hear many times saying, well, you if we had finished off our counsel last time, we wouldn't be back again to where we are. And so many times she would say, I think it's like, so just a counsel, even medicine at the home. I don't remember finishing off when you are prescribed medicine by the doctor and you told you should finish the whole what
Prescription.
the whole prescription. No, once I feel good, I need to still take it, sweetheart.
You don't even want to take medicine to
No,
begin with.
I don't. I just want to get it to where I can feel okay. And so my wife has, I think, the greatest thing I can ever be thankful is to learn each other's weaknesses, and be able to, let's say when something goes on, you know, oh, that's my wife, or this is my husband, that's how he behaves, or this is where we are. But I'm not trying to discredit the counsel that comes from men or women out there. There are great counselors there. There are even some counselors, I believe, lose sleep over your marriage. They want your marriage to work. And because of that, we should understand this, that God chooses, He appoints certain people in our lives to become those counselors. Why? It's because there's a time when that voice of God, the counsel, is not coming to you, either because you are bitter, you are angry, and that time of you to be counseled by God, you are rejecting. This is a true fact. We can reject God's counsel. But if God sees that you love a certain brother in your life, or a certain sister in your life, or you love your pastor, or you can be able to sit before someone and be counseled, He will use those people, because He is the Almighty, right, sweetheart?
Amen.
Yes, yes.
Amen. Well, thank you for explaining that. this is a topic that we're going to have sessions that are going to continue on this one. I know you touched on kids,
Yes.
and we're going to talk about in the next sessions as well, because we still want to talk on this, on the marriage. And so join us on the next section. We're going to continue talking about marriage. It's still between the two, husband and wife, before we can even talk about the kids.
You're gonna include the kids in this?
At some point we will include the kids to come on, but we're going to talk about them before we even get to bring them on.
But it's so